Hello, everybody. We are beginning with Techniques of Integration webinar commentary number 11. We are actually in Esoteric Psychology 2, page 363. Continuing, we have just worked upon the actual stanza, and now we see what Master DK has to say about that stanza. It is well to remember that this fourth ray is preeminently the ray of the fourth creative hierarchy, the human kingdom, although the fourth creative hierarchy includes more kingdoms than the human. It also contains the kingdom of souls, and some, perhaps, who are members of the planetary kingdom may be in it, and I've oftentimes wondered whether the lower kingdoms are not, in a way, projections of the fourth creative hierarchy. Okay, and therefore has peculiar relation to the functions, relationships, and the service of man. The functions of man, the relationships of man, and the service which man can render the planet as an intermediate group, a bridging group upon our planet, should we say, bridging between the higher kingdoms and the lower. The function of this intermediate group is to embody a type of energy which is that of at-one-ment. And we can call this the bringing of the many into oneness, and especially of opposing forces into oneness. This is essentially a healing force which brings all forms to ultimate perfection through the power of the indwelling life. The city of, as it's called, perfection, is found on the fourth subplane of the atmic plane. So it's the fourth of the third. And the fourth ray type is called, the corrector of the form. Thus, we presume leading to perfection. So it's essentially a healing force, bringing peace and reconciliation, and the alleviation of dissonance, which is evidence of or cause of disease. And it brings all forms to an ultimate perfection through the power of the indwelling life, with which it becomes perfectly at one, atoned at one. I think that's how this is going to be pronounced here. So all forms which are expressions of life are brought into at one ment with that life. Yeah, okay, ATM. This is brought about by the soul or consciousness aspect qualified by the ray in question. The soul is the middle principle, expressing neutral electricity and drawing together the highest and the lowest aspects of the energy system. So there were three words here. It's essentially, the human kingdom therefore has a peculiar relation to the functions, relationships, and service of man. So these are the words that are being described functions, relationships, and service, as far as I can see here. All right, the relation of the human family to the divine scheme as it exists is that of bringing into close rapport the three higher kingdoms upon our planet and the three lower kingdoms of nature. So, the kingdom of souls, right? Kingdom of souls, kingdom of planetary lives, and the kingdom of solar lives into relationship with the mineral kingdom, the vegetable kingdom, and the animal kingdom. And the three lower kingdoms of nature, thus acting as a clearinghouse for divine energy, we will say as a center through which all higher or divine energies must pass on their way to the lower kingdoms. The service of humanity, so there are several things here, right? And we will underline them. Okay. So we have relation and service, and did we have the word function? Yes, we did. The function of this intermediate group is to employ a type of energy which is that of at-one-ment. So this is the function. The relation of the human family to the divine scheme as it exists, I suppose on this planet, particularly, although the human kingdom is existing throughout the solar system in one form or another, that particular coming together of spirit and matter which results in individualized self-consciousness is the human kingdom. And the service of humanity, of the fourth creative hierarchy in this case, is to render, the service humanity is to render is that of producing unity. That of producing unity, harmony, and beauty in nature. Through a blending into one functioning related unity, the souls in all forms. And notice how he managed to bring the other two words in, the function and relation. Now, humanity is to have a second ray soul and a fourth ray personality. Fourth petal, fourth ray personality. Okay, so the service, humanity is to have the second ray soul and the fourth ray personality, and even now it probably has the fourth ray, that's fourth ray soul, and maybe a fifth ray personality. But eventually you can see how much that humanity as an expression of the second and fourth ray would do exactly this, produce unity, harmony, and beauty in nature. And even now this is underway with the interest that some human beings have in the cultivation of the various kingdoms, the creation of great beauty in the mineral kingdom, the cultivation of the vegetable kingdom, improving its color, maybe to some extent its perfume, oftentimes its fruitful yield, and then we have the domestication of the animal kingdom, the attempt to teach the animals a method of producing, of approaching self-consciousness. So the service humanity is to render is that of producing unity, harmony, and beauty in nature through the blending into one functioning, that is, at one-ing and related unity, the soul in all forms. Let's just say one may not necessarily unite the forms, but the consciousness of all forms can approach union. And even now there are those who feel they are en rapport with the consciousness of the lower kingdoms. For us to be, well, our particular types of practiced rapports are with the animal kingdom mostly, and with the kingdom of souls immediately above our own. These are the two directions in which human beings in general seem to be reaching, towards spiritual consciousness and towards some ability to enter the consciousness of the animal. The animal trainer, for instance, does this. And those who look after the welfare of certain kinds of domesticatable animals that can be raised at least towards the human kingdom. In our particular round, there will not be many of the animals that pass into the human kingdom, but there will be some few that are the exception. That will happen more in the next round, we are told. Okay, this production of unity, harmony, beauty, etc., this is achieved individually at first. We can say harmonizing, at wanting, unifying, the unification, the harmonization, and the beautification of the, well, first of all, the unification and harmonization of the soul and personality. And in general, the beautification of human nature. This is achieved individually at first, and then it takes place in group formation. This is taking a longer time, but let's just say such groups will emerge in the age of Aquarius. And finally, it demonstrates through an entire kingdom in nature. And you can ask, will we have to wait until the 7th round for this to occur? And will we even have on this planet a 7th round? Will we speed up in some way and begin to duplicate what Venus has been able to do? We don't know about this yet. Venus has been able to fulfill its entire program of development in 5 scheme rounds, or sometimes it might be called planetary rounds. Scheme rounds, planetary rounds, as opposed to chain rounds. When this takes place, the 4th creative hierarchy will be controlled predominantly by the 4th ray, by which I mean that the majority of egos will have 4th ray personalities. That's interesting. The majority of egos with 4th ray personalities, thus facilitating the task of fusion, as the ego personality ray we have seen can be so helpful in helping the soul achieve its integrative ends. We saw this particularly in the examples discussed under the 1st ray soul's method of producing integration. So the majority of egos of, I suppose, of whatever ray, I suppose, will have 4th ray personalities, thus facilitating the task of fusion, and the consciousness of the advanced units will function normally upon the 4th plane, or the Buddhic plane of intuitional awareness. Some of this may occur in the 6th root race, which will be allied to the 6th principle, or the Buddhic principle. Well, will the entire kingdom be harmonized, beautified, unified? Well, perhaps not yet in our particular round, but something of this will show itself in the 6th root race, which is related to the 6th principle, or the Buddhic principle. At least a significant number of the advanced people will be found with this principle as the major focus of their attention, and they don't necessarily have to be 4th degree initiates to do that. They can be of the intuitive type, and they can have they can be probationary initiates with a strong 4th ray, which allows them to attune intuitionally. There has to be, in a way, the exhaustion of the potentials of the mind in order to lead to intuition. This is a way in which the third and fifth ray types can approach intuition. So it is this realization which will provide adequate incentive for alignment. That's the very first word, isn't it? In our Aklari process, the first in our Aklari process, alignment. This alignment or sense of oneness is not in any way a mystical realization or that of the mystic who puts himself on rapport with divinity. The mystic still has the sense of duality, and this is so important. This is the way of discriminating the mystic from the occultist who has achieved the realization of identification. And duality is conquered, or at least the sense of duality is conquered. So the mystic still is thinking very much about myself and God, let's say, and does not lose the focus upon those two factors. Even when becoming one with God, one thinks of oneself as becoming one with God rather than of one being, which is both self and God. The mystic still has the sense of duality, nor is it the sense of identification which can characterize the occultist, and let's just say not yet. With that, there is still an awareness of individuality, though it is that of an individual who can still merge with the whole. So in this case, interestingly, he still speaks of the limitations of the occultist's sense of identification. Elsewhere, he talks about identification as pursued by the occultist as if a true merging of identities occur and a dualism is overcome. Usually, or elsewhere, let's put it like this, elsewhere, the occultist is said to lose his sense of individuality and discover the one being. But let's see what it says here. It is an almost undefinable consciousness of group fusion with a greater whole, and not so much of individual fusion with a whole. Well, these are advanced stages, and you can wonder whether the individual pursuing the fourth ray integration technique arrives at this anytime soon. Probably it's a very ultimate achievement. But he's talking about the larger possibilities for the fourth ray soul and for the fourth ray in general. So there will be a Buddhic awareness here, thus facilitating the task of fusion, and the consciousness of the advanced units will function normally upon the fourth plane of Buddhic intuitional awareness. So this realization, so is this the realization of Buddhic or intuitional awareness? Is that what he's talking about here? Because sometimes he seems to jump a little bit ahead, farther than the normal sequence of our process would take us. So let's just say that Buddhic realization would provide an adequate incentive for alignment, but it's not in any way mystic realization, and not even the sense of identification which can characterize the occultist. Well, I think there are different ways of looking at identification. This looks like a preliminary sense of identification. Here he seems to be speaking of a preliminary sense of identification. Later, I think that the true identification merges the individuality with being and does not preserve the sense of individuality, but preserves or realizes the one being in both cases, that the individual is really the one being. So he says, with this sense of identification of the occultist, as he defines it here, there is still an awareness of individuality, though it is that of an individual who can merge at will with the whole. And we might ask, and still preserve in the merging the sense of individuality? Okay. No, it's something else. It is almost an almost undefinable consciousness of group fusion within the greater whole. Group fusion, and we would ask here, how big a group? The solar system is a group. The planet is a group, and all the beings in the universe, in our sense, in a group, or are a group. It is almost an almost undefinable consciousness of group fusion with a greater whole, and not so much individual fusion. So the first step is to be merged with the group. First step is to be merged with the group before this group fusion can occur, giving a sense of universality. Until this is experienced, and obviously DK has experienced this because he can describe it, it is well nigh impossible to comprehend through the medium of words its significance and meaning. It is the reflection, if I might so express it, of the nirvanic consciousness. The reflection, I would point out, but not that of the consciousness itself. It does seem that he is speaking of the Buddhic consciousness as a reflection of the Atmic consciousness. The plane of Atma is the nirvanic plane. So we could say that this higher plane reflects itself in the lower. He did, and the Buddhic plane is the plane of the group. Soul awareness is a reflection of Buddhic awareness. Buddhic awareness is, in a way, a reflection of monadic awareness, but perhaps also a reflection of nirvanic or atmic awareness. When we speak of nirvana, it seems okay, it seems that we should be speaking not only of the atmic plane, but of the monadic plane. And why would that be? Because the Buddha was already an initiate of the fifth degree. We would have to say long before the Prince Gautama was born. If we think about that, really interesting. So he already had the possibility of focusing on the atmic plane, the nirvanic plane. But he achieved the sixth initiation, which was the coming home of the monad, really. And this coming home of the monad, well, let's put it like this. He was said to enter nirvana at the end of his life. And that certainly wouldn't have been simply the nirvanic plane or the atmic plane, but very much entry into a high state within Shambhala. And it would be a monadic state. So probably there are different types of nirvanas. This is what I suspect. Types of nirvanas. This is my theory of the moment. The logoic plane would be a type of nirvana as well, and the great nirvanic journey would be occurring as the monad changes its point of tension so that it can pursue the various paths which are offered to it, one of the paths that it chooses. Okay, so we are talking here about alignment and the incentive for alignment. Well, let's just say alignment at first. IGN at first does not lead to all the high states described in this paragraph. No, there are some ultimate alignments here, but the very first type of alignment, which will be found in this fourth technique of integration, is not the fullness of what is described immediately above here. Okay. When this fourth ray alignment is produced and the disciple becomes aware of it, and this is so important because an alignment may exist without the disciple being aware of it. As I was saying before, some of the disciples in the Tibetan group actually had contact with him, but knew it not or realized it not. Others both had it and knew it and could use it. So he does seem to refer to a rather high fourth ray type of alignment, but after all, this is really, at first, this can only be the alignment of the fourth ray type, in its personality nature with the fourth ray soul. So when this occurs and the disciple becomes aware of it, there is a crisis evoked. Now, being plunged into such a crisis as this does not sound like the undefinable consciousness of a group fusion within a greater whole, rather than an individual fusion within the whole. This seems very ultimate, in my view. This type of result seems quite ultimate compared with the type of alignment which produces the type of crisis described below. Okay. The Tibetan does not always write in a linear manner, and he seems to change levels often, so we have to understand the level that he may be speaking of at any one moment. So a crisis is evoked, and the phrase "the disciple becomes aware of it" is significant, for it indicates that states of consciousness can exist and the disciple remain unaware of them. Yes, so we can say here that the disciple has not singled out these states of consciousness, has not singled out these states of consciousness from the general contents of his consciousness. And this is really worth pondering. We may wonder what state of consciousness we may have of which we are not really aware. We have to be able to compare our customary state of consciousness with something else and be able to identify it as perhaps something higher than we originally suspected. So, as he says here, the phrase, the disciple becomes aware of it, is significant, for it indicates that states of consciousness can exist, and the disciple remain unaware of them. However, until they are brought down into the area of the brain and are recognized by the disciple in the waking physical consciousness, and I guess this is what it means to become aware. It's, we say, the recognition of which we have been speaking means the act of bringing down the state of consciousness into the physical brain, in the waking physical consciousness. And this would be recognition, as it is here discussed. So until these higher states are brought down, and here we're talking really about the intuition and its connection with the fourth ray, until they are brought down into the area of the brain and are recognized by the disciple in waking physical consciousness, they remain subjective and are not usable. They cannot be singled out and wielded, we might say, utilized, instrumentalized, as it were. They are of no practical benefit to the man on the physical plane, though perhaps on the subtler planes he may realize that he is in these states of consciousness. So this is really a question of bringing through into the physical brain that which already exists on higher planes, that which has already been achieved on higher planes. We probably know more than we know we know. I'll put it down if I may. We know more than we know we know. The crisis thus precipitated leads to fresh illumination when properly handled. So light is the result of crisis. There has been some kind of illumination, but fresh illumination comes about through the crisis, but rightly handled. So these crises are produced by the bringing together off the there's that word, and I really do want to use it. In every case, especially the fourth ray case, because there we're going to find the greatest clash, bash, smash. They all seem to indicate collisions. I'm thinking about what it must have been like for two armies to face each other, then start running towards each other, sounding their battle cry, and when their shields and weapons struck each other, there must have been a great sound going forth, which we could call the clash, the smash, the crash. All of these words suggest a violent coming together of opposing forces. Even clashing colors can be jarring to the one perceiving them. So these crises are produced by the bringing together, off the clashing together of the higher forces and the personality and soul energy, and that's exactly how we must think of the origin of the crisis. I want to make this bigger, because this is something that I've been saying as we went along, and now it is said. The alignment produces a energic line along which the soul can descend and the personality ascend, or from which the soul can go forth from the center toward the personality which is approaching that center. And when they first encounter each other, I don't think it's all sweetness and light. There can be quite a clashing of differently tending energies. Now this would naturally produce a crisis, because a crisis involves countercurrents. Crises involve the influence of counter currents upon each other. So these crises, they cannot be produced at a low stage of evolutionary development. Why? Because there is no line along which the soul can descend and reach, and directly reach the personality. They cannot be, therefore, those kinds of crises produced at a low stage of evolutionary development, in which low-grade energies are active and the personality is neither integrated nor of a high grade and character. There can be personal crises involving the frictions within the personality, and also frictions arising from the meeting of the environment and the personality, or aspects of the personality. All right, is such a phrase as low-grade energies permissible when all energies are divine? Well, we're talking about energies with a lower vibration, energies with a lower frequency. When all is divine, it conveys the idea, and that is what is desired. So the true crisis of the kind we're talking about here is it's a crisis of integration. We are dealing with a crisis of integration, and not with pains, discomforts, stresses within the personality per se, or between the personality and its environment. Oh, there it is. The forces which are involved in such a crisis are the forces of integration, at work in a personality of a very high order. So these integrations are really occurring after the first degree, and persist through the third degree, and even to the fourth degree. They are themselves necessarily of a relatively high potency. I wonder how many of us are ready for this great encounter between the soul applying the integration formula and the unwary personality. Well, maybe it is a personality who wishes this would happen, but how many of us are ready for the soul's direct application of the technique of integration? Because the soul does apply these techniques to the integrating personality. It is the integrated personality force brought in relation with soul energy whichever produces the type of crisis we are discussing now, which is here discussed. And let's remember, we are now discussing the ray of crisis. And so DK emphasizes the nature of crisis and its origin, emphasizes the nature of crisis. It is the integrated personality force brought into relation with soul energy, whichever produces the type of crisis. And of course, human beings, being members of the fourth kingdom, and the fourth grade of hierarchy are particularly subject to this kind of crisis. It's the fourth ray, the ray of crisis, suggests that all human beings will be subject eventually to crises of these sorts. All human beings eventually will be subject to crises of these kinds. So these crises constitute a very difficult moment or moments in the life of the disciple, and this applies to all disciples as they are members of the fourth kingdom of nature and of the fourth grade of hierarchy. So what do we have so far? An alignment. Well, I wonder if we can call this alignment or an attunement. And I wonder what it is particularly in the fourth ray life that brings this about. So the realization that there will be great intuitional awareness coming, there is an incentive here, with the thought that intuitional awareness is the destiny of all human beings. There is an incentive towards alignment. Or shall we call it, in this case, attunement, as there is somehow the need for the personality to find some sort of frequency which is in harmony or in tune with the sensed frequency of the soul. All right. So we're not given so much information about how the alignment comes about, but certainly meditation will help, and maybe warriorship or fighting a conflict on behalf of a higher sense of harmony, maybe fighting for harmony will do this. In any case, there is eventually the recognition of the inner warrior, and when there is that recognition, the alignment has been achieved, and now suppose the inner warrior clashes, comes into direct contact with the outer man, the outer warrior, we might say. Okay, now this fourth ray crisis evoked by a right understanding and right use of the fourth ray formula produces the following results. Now, can we say then that if we use the formulas properly, a spiritual crisis will be produced, and that if we don't produce a crisis, we are preventing the full interactivity of this higher center within ourselves, which is our real higher self, with the outer man, and we will not achieve the integration necessary. I mean, before two opposing forces can come together in a harmonious way, they simply have to come together. So the coming together brings crisis, and we have to allow crisis and allow for it. We have to allow for crisis and simply even allow it. Many people are intent on avoiding the frictions which this kind of collision or clash can bring, and they like to bring peace immediately to the surroundings. Let's say the fourth ray personality may avoid the inevitable crisis. Well, it is the or perhaps fourth ray elements within the personality may seek to placate the initial turmoil and not allow the crisis to develop fully. Okay. Well, of what nature will this crisis be? Well, we talked about the isolation. Alone am I know too much. You know, as it is said here. Okay, let's see if we get that one. Alone I stand and am, I know too much. So the sense of isolation is very strong, being the one who is caught in the middle between opposing forces and not taking sides, not identified fully with either one, but identified in one's own central position, which is right in the crossfire between the opposites. Okay, so that sense of isolation comes first. So we might say that as a result of the crisis of alignment, as a result of the alignment, a crisis of evocation occurs. A sense of isolation, and putting this more into more modern language, a complex of thoughts with a certain feeling tone is produced of the same nature as that which temporarily overcame Elijah. And was he on the fourth ray in some important sense? Was John the Baptist Elijah? Was he a fourth ray soul? He was overwhelmed with the sense of his clarity of vision in relation to the problem with which he was faced, and of his unique response to it, and also the sense of aloneness which devastated him. Well, I'm recalling the great oratorio by Mendelssohn, the Elijah oratorio. And there is this wonderful sort of bass baritone aria where he's very depressed, and he says, "It is enough, O Lord, now take away my life, for I am not better than my fathers." And he talks about all he has sought to do and all he has failed in doing. I, even I, only am left, and they seek my life, and they seek my life, to take it away, to take it away. I sang this long ago, trying to remember this, but of course at the time had no idea that it was, in a sense, a fourth ray crisis. Well, he was certainly between two opposing sides, between the priests of Baal and between the priests of Israel. But I think he sided more with the priests of Israel, and the offering of the priests of Israel invoked the fire from heaven, and those of Baal or Baal did not, although there was an astronomical meaning or type of work for the priests of Baal. So a complex is produced of the same type which overcame Elijah, and I think in this context, if I can call it fourth ray Vulcan is involved. I believe that one of the monadic rays of Vulcan, maybe the sub-ray, is the fourth ray. He is an artificer with gems and in metal, and he is a craftsman using these harder materials, fashioning and shaping them into objects of beauty, even the jewel in the lotus. So he was overwhelmed. He could see clearly, and he could see what the opposing forces could not see. Alone I stand and am, I know too much. And that's from the old commentary, right? Alone, okay, let's get that straight. Alone I stand and am. I know too much. And he saw his own response, which was futile, and he had no support from either side. From either side, and this was the devastation. So the Elijah complex of aloneness between the battling pairs of opposites. This is the result of the crisis of evocation, one of the first results. There are several results. So aloneness is the sense of aloneness at first. A devastating sense of aloneness, and then a sense of despairing futility. The forces arrayed against the disciple seem so great, and his equipment so inadequate and feeble. Well, sometimes the fourth ray type feels the same kind of vulnerability as the second ray type. I'm not good enough, I'm inadequate, I can't make the grade. The fourth and the second ray are very connected in this respect. So the small individual at the center, this is what he identifies as, and not as the inner soul, not as the inner warrior, the inner soul. A sense of despairing futility, and the forces arrayed against him seem so strong, and he just a tiny point in the center, not an all-embracing point, not a great heart, not an all-including point, not yet, not fully having soul consciousness. He has not really merged with that central point yet. All right. And then comes a correction, a determination to stand in the midst, stand if not victorious, at least to refuse to admit defeat, which would mean, in a sense, to keep standing. Taking with determination the position which St. Paul expressed in the words, having done all to stand. Well, he was a Scorpio, and Scorpio transmits the fourth ray more powerfully than any during this world period. Okay, during this world period. So he corrects himself. He no longer is despairing and unable to mobilize his forces. And finally, there will come the sudden recognition, and we have to ask, is this a result of the light of the warrior within? Something new is disclosed of the warrior within, who is invincible, invisible, and omnipotent. So this seems like the fourth ray soul. But who can only now begin his real work when the personality is aligned and the crisis recognized and the will to victory is present. So ponder on this. We would do well to ponder on this. The alignment has come. Perhaps the alignment comes through the attempt to express beauty rather than in conventional meditation per se. But anyway, it comes and it invokes a crisis. There's the crash of them coming together, and the awakening through the crisis of the sense of the inner warrior, perhaps revealed in the light, Well, we have not been, yes, the light is coming. So anything that comes to light suddenly is emerging in light. The inner warrior is coming to light, and light is required if he is to come to light. So I think we've entered here somewhat the light phase. When, therefore, this state of mind is achieved, it is the state of mind that's different from feeling isolated, alone, despairing, futile. Then at least there's going to be a determination to stand, and what is it? The outward stance resembles that of the stance of the inner warrior, who did not realize, of the inner warrior, the stance of the inner warrior. The outer warrior did not realize he was a reflection of a greater inner prototype. A greater inner prototype. And when the resonant stance is correct, when that without resembles that within, then the one within is disclosed in the inner light, in the beam of inner light. Okay. So, prototype. In other words, if we manage somehow on the outer plane to assume the position of the inner being, we will create a resonance with that inner being, and there will be a flow of light, and the inner being will appear. So there can always be, there's the revelation of the inner weaver, of the inner sage, of the, what should we say, the inner destroyer, because in a way the first-rate type is also the warrior. But we have various kinds of revelations. Revelation of the inner ruler, director. Revelation of the inner sage or teacher. Revelation of the inner, it's called weaver. Revelation of the inner warrior. And we could go on, revelation of the inner knower, scientist, of the inner idealist, of the inner magician, and so forth. When there is a sufficient coming together of the two poles, the light will break forth, and the inner prototype will be revealed to the outer expression. So when there is sufficient light, the inner prototype is revealed to its outer expression, the personality. Okay. All right. So, when therefore the state of mind is achieved, the disciple and the inner master, the soldier and the warrior, the inner master is the inner warrior in this case. I'm remembering some interviews with Navy SEALs, who are probably the most highly trained commandos in the world, and they were talking about each other, and the highest compliment they could give each other was, now there's a true warrior. I'm recalling in one of these attacks that, very dangerous, that one of the SEALs thought he saw a hand grenade about to go off, and he threw his body over it. Well, it turned out it was not, and it did not explode, but that gesture of throwing one's body on the hand grenade, it would be a suicide, really, for the sake of the rest of the team. And one of his teammates said, just an exemplary warrior, in reference to that particular act. The soldier and the warrior. Well, the soldier is, in a way, the outer warrior, and the warrior is capitalized here. The soldier and the warrior are known to be at one. And there takes place what has been called in some of the ancient books the breaking forth of the light of victory. A victory which does not inflict defeat upon those who are at war, but which results in the triple victory of the two sides and of the one who is at the center. Two merge with one, and all are victorious in the merging. So this is typical of a fourth-rate consummation. When we talks about consummation, this term must mean integration. There's been a big jump here, because we talk about the inner warrior revealed in the light, but could the light of victory be more like the revelation stage? Could light of victory be more like the stage of revelation? Is that possible? Because there's been a jump here, and the light of victory is not the same light. This is not the same light as revealed the inner warrior. I suppose when the inner warrior is revealed, then the outer soldier has to learn to identify as the inner warrior. So this is a victory, a fourth-ray victory. It's not the first-ray victory where the opposition is annihilated. It's not the sixth-ray victory in which the opposing idealist is triumphantly overcome and maybe converted. That's what the sixth-ray types like to do with those they have overcome. They try to make sure that the one who is defeated will begin to believe as they believe. They wish to sway them to their particular vision. So the breaking forth of the light of victory, a victory which does not inflict defeat upon those who are at war, but which results in the triple victory of the two sides and the one who is at the center. All three move forward to perfection. Again, that fourth-ray term, the quality of each and all is valued, and thus there is a victory for each and all. When one's inner quality can be expressed and fully expressed, then there is victory. When the inner quality can be fully expressed, there is, from the perspective of the will, a total victory. Okay, all three then move forward to perfection. And this is typical of a fourth ray consummation. Let victory crown the efforts of the Blessed One by harmonizing all. Peace lies behind the warring energies. These different stanzas, in this case the Blessed One stanzas, overlaps with this formula for integration. So this is typical of a fourth ray consummation, and if this thought is applied with due reflection to the problem of the fourth kingdom in nature, the fourth grade of hierarchy, humanity itself, the beauty of the phrasing and the truth of the statement must inevitably appear. The breaking forth of the light of victory. So in a stage of conflict between victory and defeat, all is dark. And the realization of either one, of course, the darkness of defeat, I suppose, the agony of defeat, as it is called, the pain of victory, the agony of defeat, these held him down. This is the story of the Blessed One, who is, as we know, the monad in incarnation, the monad in extension, the monad in immersion, the monad in attenuation, all these words to describe what it's like for a monad to go forth as a jiva and extend itself in consciousness into the lower worlds. Consciousness and presence. So what do we have here, really? Has he completed this, perhaps? With this blazing forth of light comes the revelation. So the blazing forth of light, well, this seems quite a consummation. Not always is the coming of light in these formulas a moment of victory. More often, simply a moment of well, do I want to call it revelation? A moment of illumination. Beginning with the revelation, well, beginning with the disclosing of a compromised state. You know, the light comes in for the second ray type and reveals all the defects. And then perhaps the practical next step ahead, and then the traveling companions. It's not victory. It's by no means consummatory. Let's just see the let's say the first appearance of the light is not consummatory, not yet. Look at what happens with the first ray type receiving the light with shock, which shocks. It's not any kind of light of victory. It's only later at the stage of integration that some kind of victory comes. And the third ray type of light, or the light in the third ray case, reveals the ugliness of the carpet. It reveals that one has not achieved. One has been in a state of futility with no real accomplishment and has been a source of trouble to others. So when we talk about the light of victory, is that what the fourth ray light always is? Or would it be some kind of light in the first stages? I'm going to ask this. In the first stages of the dawning or the breaking forth of light in the fourth ray integration process, there may be a revelation of how all the conflicts have not really achieved much, and no true victory. But later in the process, as the light intensifies, the light of victory can break forth. So I think what we have to look at here is the process of the shining forth of the light is progressive, and the light at first reveals a compromised, bound situation, but later a kind of powerful realization, such as the realization of the guardian angel, the realization of the solar angel or angel of the presence, the realization of the master. These are revelations in the light which are much different from all of one's defects. So usually, it seems to me, the first stage of light revelation, which is not yet the revelation that we're talking about in this process, this auxiliary process, the first stage of light revelation is usually of a compromised condition, and it is not a pleasant revelation, or a pleasant, well, I don't want to use the word revelation because it's coming up. It's not a pleasant sight. Let's just say it that way. But the quality of the sight improves as we go along. So the light, the light segues into revelation. And so here we have a revelation coming forth. With this blazing forth of light comes the revelation expressed for us so inadequately in the closing words of the fourth ray formula. And what are those closing words? See truly with the opened eye of inner vision, and you will find not two but one, not war but peace, not isolation. Thus shall the beauty of the Lord shine forth. It's the revelation of the beauty of the Lord shining forth. So, in the final stage of the formula. So, this revelation is the revelation of the, as it says, beauty of the Lord shining forth. Thus shall the beauty of the Lord shine forth. The closing words. The hour is now, and the beauty of the Lord is really always shining forth for those who can perceive it with the opened eye of vision. Man sees and grasps the final purpose for the race. A consummatory vision is seen, a revelation of a consummatory vision. The revelation of the vision, well, sometimes vision precedes true revelation, but let's just say a vision of the race is revealed, of the objective ahead of this fourth kingdom in a great sweep of the divine manifestation. And what an incentive this is, you know. This is to cooperate with the divine plan. It is valuable also to remember that revelation comes to the race in 3 stages. Okay, well, so the light of victory gives way to the revelation of the consummation which lies before the individual and especially the human race. The light of victory. This light of victory is ending the ancient conflict. It's one of the types of light that is seen. let's just say this, that when the outer warrior, outer soldier, or warrior identifies with the inner warrior and stands steadfast in the center of all conflicts until a fourth ray of victory can be achieved, then comes the revelation, the revelation of what humanity can achieve, of what humanity will achieve. This is a little more complex, sometimes when we're dealing with the fourth ray, the words given, the indications, all appeal to the intuition, and one has to understand them through the intuition. They're not described in the normal discursive manner. So let us see here. So it's valuable to remember that this revelation comes to the race in 3 stages. Individually, when the disciple relinquishes the fight in order to stand, and thereby discovering victory ahead, achieving oneness with the enemy, the warrior, and the one. So this is the true individual revelation. Okay. Individual revelation. Let's say that light has revealed the warrior. And now the disciple realizes that he is the warrior, essentially. And with that realization and the determination to stand until there is a great harmonizing victory, standing until there is a great harmonizing victory, a unification or integration occurs, uniting the outer warrior with his enemy, seen as a necessary other, uniting the soldier with the inner warrior, who is one with the inner warrior of all others, and with the one, in which all opponents are necessary parts of the one whole. So this is a consummation. What happens here? There is the vision of the inner warrior, and there is identification as the inner warrior, and with it a vision of the consummation for the individual, and also of the group and humanity, and consequently an integration of all that is seen. The enemy is no longer the enemy. The soldier and the warrior are one, and also one in and are also one in the one. One in the one, which is the whole. And this is the integration, which is also a fusion. In other words, when we begin to talk about these high integrative states and consummations, we have already entered the technique of fusion. When we talk of the high integrative states, we have entered the technique of fusion, and fusion is occurring. As I say, these states overlap, and it's very hard to make them simply cut and dried. Let's see what he says about the revelation for the group. In group formation. Okay. Revelation comes to the race, not only to the individual, through the individual, but in group formation, and let's call that test, yes. I want to make sure I'm still revelation in group formation. This approach to the revelation is today going on in the world and is producing a moment of extreme crisis in connection with the work of the new group of world servers. Their moment of crisis lies immediately ahead. The group soul coming into clash with the group personality. Well, let's just say that we're going to have the fusion of the soul of the new group of world servers with their outer mechanism. The fusion of, or let's just say the integration of the inner new group of world servers, with the outer mechanism, instrument of that group. So it will be group realization or group revelation. We see this all the time with the 14 rules for disciples and initiates. Let the group realize, let the group see, let the group understand, let the group know. It is a knowledge which dawns upon the integrated group as a whole. Then there will be revelation. The individual revelation has been with us, the group revelation is coming, and this is revelation in the human family as a whole. Okay. Let's take a look at this. This is another phase. Whoop. Revelation in the human family as a whole. In the human family as a whole. This revelation will come to the race at the end of the age. Which age? Which age? Is this the group age of Aquarius? Is it so soon? Is this the group age of Aquarius? Or is this not rather soon for a revelation for the entirety of humanity? I think it's rather soon. Well, anyway, and with it we need not for the moment concern ourselves. It is essentially the revelation of the plan as a whole, embodying the various aspects of the plan as, from cycle to cycle, the race has grasped the smaller aspects and revelations and succeeded eventually in bringing them into concrete manifestation. So, well, the human family will have to be an initiate of some kind to receive this type of revelation. But of course, the human family is ruled by the fourth ray largely, and by the light-bearing seventh ray eventually. And so we can say even that humanity has a kind of fourth ray soul at this time, and perhaps just as we've had the individual revelation of the fourth ray soul and the coming group revelation of the fourth ray soul, we have to remember that the soul of the new group of world servers is really the fourth ray. This is the fourth ray group related to Taurus, which transmits the fourth ray. So all of these have a very strong fourth ray inner spiritual component. The fourth ray soul of the individual, the dominant fourth ray of the new group of world servers, and the dominant fourth ray of humanity as a whole. It is a revelation of the purposes of deity, past, present, and future purposes, as grasped by those who have developed the divine aspects and are consequently in a position to understand the divine aspects are the expression of the monad through the spiritual triad. So this will come much later for humanity than even at the end of the age of Aquarius. That is too soon. The consummation of humanity's process will not come until the final root race, whatever that is. It could very well be, the seventh root race of this fourth round, and at least as far as the humanity of this particular planetary chain and planet are concerned, then that would be a climax. But there will be future humanity. The animal kingdom will become humanity. The vegetable kingdom will become humanity, and so forth. And maybe all of that will be consummated in the 7 rounds of our present planetary chain. But, we can have humanities on all the different planetary chains. And I would look ahead to the 5th and the 6th and 7th chain, and we'll ask what type of humanity will be represented there, or is there already a type of humanity represented on those chains, and do they have a simultaneous process with our present chain? These things are hard to understand, but just as the chakra system has all chakras present simultaneously, the planetary chains are the chakras of our planetary logos with his planetary scheme, so they have to be, to a degree, simultaneous. Well, he's going to, let's see, the series of spiritual happenings or unfoldments of consciousness in the life of the individual and the group produces a definite integration upon the 3 levels of personality work: mental, emotional, and physical. But we have to realize that it's not just an integration of the mental, emotional, and physical vehicle into a personality, because that has already been occurring before the soul could apply the integrative formula. So we're talking about an integration with the soul, if not yet a complete fusion with the soul. So we are talking of an integration with the soul, if not the complete fusion of the soul and personality. As I say, sometimes it's a bit difficult to discern the difference between the higher states of integration, as here described in this section, and the consummating states of fusion. They seem rather the same, but with fusion I think we are not so much emphasizing the coordination of the 2 energy systems as we are emphasizing the fusion in consciousness. So these integrative processes, these spiritual happenings or unfoldments, these produce integration. So the greater the power of the spiritual happenings in the progressing disciple, the closer to integration. Progressing disciple. Okay. And this, he says, prepares it also, these spiritual happenings and unfoldments, i.e., these spiritual happenings and unfoldments in the life of the 4th ray type, but also of other types of human beings, lays the groundwork for those processes of fusion which will blend the personality, the rays of the personality and soul. He says, if you will carry this concept of integration achieved upon the three levels of the three worlds of human endeavor into the activities of relationships of groups, you will find much of interest and of informative value anent the work of the new group of world servers, how they are integrating when they become a completely fused soul group, what they have to accomplish. Maybe the new group of world servers. Okay, that's not it. The new group of world servers has to recognize the inner warrior and see in the light of revelation the consummation for humanity as a whole. And there has to be the blending in the new group of world servers. Well, there are no enemies. I think this is the point. For the new group of world servers, there are no enemies, and the blending in harmony with the opposition occurs, and also the merging within the one. But, and I'll capitalize that, but the new group of world servers must recognize its inner warrior. And its consummation is a harmonizing. Its consummation is a harmonizing. Let victory crown the efforts of the Blessed One, i.e., the group known as the New Group of World Servers, by harmonizing all and bringing peace. Peace lies behind the apparently warring energies. So there is a consummation here. How can we call it? The enemy of unity that the new group of world servers is always facing. But there is a finding common ground with the apparent enemy that this group must do. There are no true enemies, recognizing the apparent enemy as also an aspect of the whole. And the warrior, which is a warrior for the sake of peace, that is what the new group of world servers is, and the oneness that it serves. All of these unite for the group as well. So he's giving us important hints about this fourth ray group known as the new group of world servers. This group is, if I might so express it, an effort at an externalization of the group personality of the disciples, connected with the hierarchy. So interesting, too. The new group of world servers as the personality, as the group personality, which must be merged with the inner group soul of the warrior. It has a group soul, and the outer group is consisting of the many who are reflections of this one inner group soul. But there must be a realization of the peaceful warrior, we might call it. Peaceful warrior. The warrior for peace. This is the soul of the new group of world servers, and they are involved in combat, but of the fourth ray type, which achieves victory for all, for the enemies or opponents, for the new group of world servers, and for the one, which the new group of world servers serves. If we ponder on this, the function and relation will be apparent. Well, there's a lot to ponder on there, and we have to do that together in greater depth. But at least some ideas have been offered, so let us now add to the three words expressing the three ray formulas, you know, should we say, giving the epitome, the word for this ray, steadfastness. So, ray 1, inclusion, ray 2, centralization, ray 3, stillness. It's a quality of the second ray in a sense, calmness, stillness. Ray 4, steadfastness, a quality of the first ray. It is that which must be achieved having done all to stand, having done all, as St. Paul said, to stand. As we brood upon these words and on the remaining three, which are indicated hereafter, we shall bring clearly into our consciousness the keynote for the disciples of the world at this time. It's kind of a sevenfold keynote, I suppose, who are in a position to discover that their personalities or their souls are on some one or other of these rays. Now here he seems to hint at the importance, hinting at the importance of the personality ray in the integration process. The integration has to be the integration of the already quite integrated personality with the soul ray which is being applied. The soul formula being applied demands that that personality integrate itself with the indications of this formula, with the goals, with the destiny, with the purposes of the soul ray being applied. And there are probably different ways that personalities on specific rays can integrate themselves with the particular soul ray being applied. Well, you can imagine if the fourth ray type is the warrior, a first ray personality trying to integrate itself with the fourth ray soul would apply, you know, great powers of will to this particular integration. It would be a most willing instrument for this victory in harmony. And you know, the teaching ray on the second ray personality would offer those particular qualities to the achievement of victory and harmony, and creative intelligence would be offered to facilitate victory and harmony by the third ray personality. Whether we'll have a double fourth ray or not, that remains to be seen. It's certainly possible. And the discoveries of the true nature of things through science will be applied to victory and harmony, you know. Maybe there are countries which are at war with each other because there is insufficient technology to really provide for the needs, for the leisure, for the quality of life needed by the people in those countries, so they're fighting each other to gain an advantage so they can have some of those things which technology might otherwise give them. And great idealism would be added to the achievement of victory and harmony, and great organization under the seventh ray to victory and harmony, and so forth. I think I did talk about the best type of blending of all soul ray types with all personality ray types. And you can work this out for yourself. Something's trying to be achieved within by your soul nature. It is trying to integrate with, it's trying to integrate its energy system with the energy system of your already quite rapidly integrating personality. And what can your personality give? What can your personality ray give to this integrative process, to facilitate it and to bring it into expression sooner, to cooperate? The personality ray must learn to cooperate with the integrative process being applied by the soul with this particular ray. So the use of these words by those who, he's warning us here now, those who are not pledged disciples in connection with their personality rays, and personality expression might be definitely undesirable. Might be, not necessarily, might be. They are not yet committed to the agenda of the soul, and the personality looms large in their own case. And it's pretty clear that these are soul words. These words of power are soul words, and not meant to refer to the personality and its ray per se. The third ray personality, emphasizing stillness, for instance, might find himself descending into the slows of, or the sloughs of lethargy. Already there's a tendency, DK tells us, for certain types on the third ray to be rather inactive and not rousing themselves, working only maybe in the mind and not physically active at all. The sloughs of lethargy. The first ray personality, seeking to develop inclusiveness, might go to extremes, deeming himself, ahamkarically, as a center of inclusiveness. So there's no decentralization there. There is a emphasis upon the personality center, which is undesirable when it requires, decentralization to merge the personality ray with the soul ray. And if we have anything that emphasizes the personality ray and makes it, we might make it even more resistant to the types of merging which has to occur. It might work against the necessary decentralization. So these are words of power when used by a disciple and must be employed in the light of the soul, or may have striking harmful effects. How very, very interesting. Striking harmful effects. Goodness. So we will be careful in the application and try to be as much soul-infused personalities as we can be when we are working with the integration formulas. Because remember, the soul can't apply these until the personality is already beginning to become aware of the higher of the pairs of opposites and is already in the process of integrating. As a matter of fact, at one point he says you've pretty well got to be a personality integrated within itself before these can be applied. But we don't want to be just a self-centered personality integrated within itself. We want to be a personality integrated within itself that is already reaching towards the higher of the pairs of opposites. We pretty well know that these techniques are not going to be applied before the fifth petal really has some activity in it, because in a way the angel of the presence might be involved here, the downward-looking soul. It is involved. So the fifth petal will give us, when fully unfolded, the first initiation, and when we think that integration isn't even fully achieved until the third or even the fourth initiation, we realize we have to be in a somewhat spiritual orientation for these integrative formulas to be successfully applied by the soul. And hopefully, although there is not total accuracy in everything I say, of course not, can't be, hopefully there will be enough thought suggested to get you thinking along integrative lines and how you can use these formulas to bring about for yourself a closer integration of your personal energy system with your soul energy system to produce a great fusion in consciousness and the merging of the soul ray and the personality ray in completeness eventually. Okay, see you later. Bye-bye.